Today, everybody, I have Ilana Dunn on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful. I'm so excited to be here. How are you?
I'm doing great. And first off, you're excited. I'm excited to have you because just to kind of give everybody some exposition here, I listen to a lot of podcasts about dating, and there's this podcast I've been hearing for years. I don't know his full name, but Tripp, he has a program called How to Talk to Girls. And I saw a podcast titled, someone who worked at Hinge and get their advice, something of that nature. I'm ad-libbing here. And you were on there and you were just so engaging. You had such you and I relate in a lot of ways, and I'll get into that later, but I just love your background from Hinge and what you're doing now. So kind of give everybody a synopsis on, your background and what you do.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate all of that. And I'm glad that podcast episode brought you to me. So yeah, I host the Dating and Relationships podcast, Seeing Other People, which my goal with it is really to help people feel less alone and more empowered in their dating lives. I know how hard dating is. I'm in a relationship now, but it was not an easy journey getting there. And I feel like through every dating experience we have, like we just feel so isolated. And when it's not working, we go on social media and we see everybody else in these seemingly happy relationships. And it's like, well, why can everybody else find love, but I can't? Like, what's wrong with me? And realistically, there probably isn't anything wrong with you. Are there things you could be doing better? Absolutely. We're all not perfect. We all make a lot of mistakes and it's a big learning process. But my goal is really to just help people through all of it every step of the way. And so I bring on expert guests and I also bring on my listeners who come on anonymously to share what they've been through and how it's impacted them and what they wish they knew going through it. And I ended up in the dating space after, having a really horrible relationship experience, which led me to actually apply to a job at Hinge because I, had this mindset of like, well, if I can help a single person not end up feeling this way that I'm feeling right now, wouldn't that be the greatest thing in the world? So I ran Hinge's social for a little over 2 years and it was such an incredible experience.
I bet. And again, I love the fact that you're a creative person like myself because part of that podcast interview that I read is that you were in charge of the social media, advertising, showcasing tips and best practices on what to do or just, whereabouts in the dating world. And one thing that really got me was, because I can relate to this, is that you going through so many checkpoints of approval just to get something posted. It's like, come on. And when you don't have to do it, then you have to. That's got to be frustrating as a creator.
Yeah, it really felt like it got to a certain point where I was showing up to work every day, like fighting to do my job. And it's like, there are people who need help. I'm creating the content that can help them. Like, why do I have to jump through a million hoops to get it out there? And like, why can't I just go and do it when I'm able to do it? And here's this platform that have all these people that want it. And it was such a frustrating thing for me. So it's so empowering now to be just doing it on my own. I have an idea, I go do it. And if it works, amazing, I'll do more of it. If it doesn't work, I don't have anyone, reprimanding me for it.
Yeah, there's nothing like working for yourself and making all the decisions yourself. It's so rewarding. And I will say that we do have something in common. We both met our significant other through Hinge. So tell us how you met. Are you currently engaged right now, or are you currently planning on getting married? Not yet. Okay. Neither am I. But go ahead.
But, there have been conversations and it's definitely in the plan for our future. And yeah, so we've been dating for almost 2 years. We matched on Hinge, like deep pandemic. It was January of 2021. Our parents were hoping to get their vaccine in the next month or two, but not necessarily getting it. And we matched, he messaged me and I didn't answer. I don't know why.
Oh,
and
okay.
He followed up a week later. So there are a lot of little teachable moments in our Hinge story. So I really like to tell it, but he followed up and he said, hey, figured I'd try this again. How was your week? And I saw that message and then I saw his initial message and it was, hey, I also love the Jonas Brothers. Because I had a prompt in my profile about loving the Jonas Brothers. And so when he followed up, I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad you did. And we got into a great conversation of our favorite brother, our favorite song. And, we got back 2 weeks ago from a trip to Vegas where we went to see 3 nights of Jonas Brothers concerts in a row.
That is awesome.
So that happened, but he asked me out on a date and I said, this is going to sound fake, but I can't really see you for 6 weeks because, I'm going back and forth between my apartment with my roommates and our parents. And we just agreed we're not going to see anyone else. So can I reach back out when the time is right? And, he thought he was never going to hear from me again, but a little over a month later in February, I reached back out and we ended up going on our first date. And it's funny because in between, chatting and going on our date, I looked him up and I found a mutual friend of ours and I texted her. I'm like, Helena, what's this guy's deal? And she's like, Ilana, scroll up in our conversation. You asked me about him in October.
Oh, okay. All right.
In October, I texted her and said, hey, I'm bored and looking through my old Hinge matches. And I found this guy I matched with in May and we never messaged each other, but he looks cute. Should I? So it really is crazy. Like we had to like keep appearing in each other's lives. And then eventually, the timing was right. The pieces fell together.
Yeah, it's funny because in my situation, I'll explain how me and my girlfriend met up through Hinge, but it's funny because you hear all the cliches. You'll find somebody when you're not looking or where you least expect it, like those cliche Hallmark Christmas movies or something like that, like a bad movie. But it actually does happen. So for me and my girlfriend, who I'm going to marry, I don't have a ring yet. We have a child, our little boy who's 2 weeks old. I love this woman to death. She's the greatest woman I've ever met. But how I found her, believe it. Here's a tip for ladies who's listening about dating apps. Her profile page, the main profile page, she liked to attend galas here in San Antonio, like museums, and they had this dinosaur exhibit. And on her main picture, she had a picture of a velociraptor behind her and her posing like the velociraptor. And she looked beautiful, but she was posing like, I love that. I am going to reach out to her. We matched immediately. But what I loved about her picture was that she was telling me about her personality. She was telling me, how she dresses, where she goes. And I think that's incredibly lacking with a lot of dating profiles is that there's not enough story in them. But eventually we started dating. And again, she's the most amazing woman I've ever met. I will marry her. But again, Hinge brought both of our significant others together. That's so funny.
Yeah. And I love that point you made about how like she showed her personality and told you a story with her profile. And to your point, yeah, I think that's something that so many people struggle with. And understandably, dating apps appeared one day and there was no kind of guidebook on how to best use them. And I think a problem I see so often, especially with women, is that their profiles, they're posting pictures and writing prompts with the goal of like looking quote unquote cool instead of actually showing off who they are. So was it cool of me to write that I love the Jonas Brothers? Absolutely not. But did that actually give insight into who I am and what I care about and what I would be really excited to talk to somebody about or connect with somebody with? Absolutely. So I really think it's so important to, take that time to figure out what makes me me and how can I communicate this in words or in pictures.
Absolutely. And I think from a guy's perspective, and I'll rewind to dating apps, like when I first encountered them in 2016 after my divorce in a bit, but to touch on your point, yes, there's a lot of beautiful women out there that you see on dating apps, but after a while, you kind of, as a guy, you become desensitized because it's just, they're looking their best, it's filters, and I need more. And just because you're posing in front of that wall with the butterfly wings or the angel wings, or like with your back to the lens, but you're looking at scenic mountains, it's like, no, those are Instagram posts.
Yes.
I don't want to see a photo of you with your favorite steakhouse behind you. That gives me a little bit, but that's so cliche. Be original. And I think more women need to understand that, hey, beauty only goes so far in the dating app space. A lot of guys like me at that point want substance and we need more. So some guys do read bios and we need more. And there's some beautiful women out there who just feel like, hey, my pictures are enough, and they put nothing in their bio.
Yeah.
And, we'll go into that in a bit, but I totally to touch on your point, but real quick. Okay. So I got married in 99 and I dated in the 90s, right? So that was my world. So here I am, 39 years old. I'm 45 now. But I go into the dating world in 2016 and I find out dating apps. And I have to admit, as a married man, I think anybody who's never jumped on a dating app, you're curious on what you can bring in. Like, what's my value? What's my real estate value? So there was a curiosity there. But I will admit, as a 39-year-old guy going on these apps, I found that they made dating actually lazy in a sense, because back in my day, not to talk like an old guy here, but how old are you, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
I was 5 when you got married. I'm 28.
Okay, there you go. But in the 90s, it was different because you really had to go to places to meet people, know how to strike a conversation, make a good impression on them, and then ask for their number, then get a date, then take them out on a date and go to dinner before anything physical ever happened. And with dating apps, I'm finding that there's a lot of generational younger people who feel or don't know how hard it actually is to meet people. And dating apps, in my opinion, made it lazy. I remember matching with somebody one night, and then we hooked up that night because she wanted to. I'm like, wow, this is like, I put no effort into this. You just wanted to hook up.
It's faster than Amazon Prime.
It is. And I'm like, oh my God. So I can imagine younger people not knowing the comparison of what it was before till now, and just it developing a lot of bad habits on that. So what are your thoughts on that?
No, I completely agree. You know, I'll talk to my parents and their friends, and, you know, they'll always say like, oh, but isn't dating so easy now because of dating apps and there are so many options? And it's like,
yes,
dating apps are a tool, but they're not necessarily, I think they're a blessing and a curse, you know? Yes. I completely agree to your point that like they made people lazy. I think that people always think, well, if it doesn't work out with this person, there's a million more, you know, or
there's always plan B.
There's always plan B. You can always keep swiping, or also like, oh, well, like this person's fine, but you know, maybe in the next 10 swipes, I'll find someone even better. And people are not putting in the effort, to your point, like they used to. And it is really unfortunate because we all want that. Like at the end of the day, if you're looking for a relationship, you want somebody to be putting in that effort, to be going that extra mile, to be, you know, calling you the next day and following up and confirming the date because you like made that plan and you want to know that it's still on and you don't want to be second guessing anything. But just it's become so transactional where it's like, okay, well, we matched now, like maybe we're going to go on a date. Okay. Like we kept talking, we exchanged numbers. It's like, you know, exactly the flow of things. It's almost like going through the same exact routine.
It's like a cadence. Yeah,
exactly. And when people get caught up in that, it's like, it takes the joy out of it. And it just becomes like this thing that you have to do instead of this thing that you want to do. And I think that's where people end up, you know, feeling really burnt out and feeling like dating apps are failing them and they're never going to find their person because everything is just the same.
Yes, it's all the same. And you can get lost in that life very easily, like I did for a while. Like I hadn't dated in over 20 years, and I've only been with one woman, so I just had a lot of fun, right? But I was open and truthful with everybody that I met. But you can get lost in it, and I found myself not really connecting like on a human level to a lot of people, and I was actually I was ghosted myself, right? That's common, but I remember ghosting people because there was no connection because they were just a JPEG and a text. And I think that's also contributing to what we're seeing in this toxic dating culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes it frustrating for everybody. You know, it's frustrating for anyone who is trying to find something serious. And it's frustrating for people who also are just trying to have fun and explore what's out there because nobody's communicating. Nobody is sharing, you know, what they're actually looking for. And we're all just making assumptions based on what we want and assuming that the person on the other side of the phone or the other side of the table is looking for the same exact thing. And that might not be the case. And that's how we all end up getting hurt.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny because, again, I'm an older guy and I come and I see a lot of the younger guys like in their 20s or 30s, and they're always complaining. And I laugh. I'm like, when are you going to take some accountability, guys, and just own up to like, maybe you're not successful on your dating app because your profile sucks and the pictures are bad. You know, do a self-analysis on that. But there's a soundbite that's kind of floating around TikTok and all over social media that dating apps for men are not going to work unless you're rich or 6 foot tall, abs, all this other stuff, or a blue check mark. You're not going to be successful women. And apparently, I forget the stat, but they says like women have the power and they're only selecting the top 3%, and everybody else, the other 90% of men, they're just kind of just left out there. Is there any truth to that? I mean, you worked at Hinge. Did you see any data that kind of like, I guess, confirms that, or is that just like a biased opinion out there?
I don't know about data. You know, I can't speak to like, has there been research done about that? I have no idea. But in my experience, just from the people I've talked to, the dating app profiles that I've, you know, revamped and seeing people's settings, like it is really unfortunate because women especially we all have these long checklists now of things that we want, but because dating apps literally allow you to filter for somebody who has a graduate degree or somebody who is 6 foot tall, like it has become a problem where people are like, well, that's what I want. And, you know, I have friends who are 5'1" or 4'11" and they want somebody that's 6 feet tall. And I'm like, literally, like, are you out of your mind? Like that's going to hurt both of your necks, first of all, when you try and kiss each other, but you don't need that. And just because, you know, like, honestly, I think like, I know like short kings have become a trend, but honestly, like, I think those guys are the guys that would actually be making people happy, and they're not getting enough chances. And so I do think there is this huge group of men out there that are not being given the time of day because, you know, they're not a certain height or they don't have a certain job title and aren't making a certain amount of money. And it is so unfortunate that the apps have allowed us to filter for these things because the things that we're filtering for aren't necessarily going to make somebody a good partner.
Yes, I completely agree. There's never Mr. Perfect out there. There's never anybody out there that's going to meet all those check boxes. But you touch on something about women being very selective. And I've heard this on a few podcasts and other, you know, commentary out there. Do you think there's any truth to that women are very just selective to the point where they're reaching or searching for something that's unattainable and it's kind of hurting them in the process and keeping those good men out? Do you think there's any truth to that?
I think for some women, definitely, not all. I know a lot of women who really like will give shots to great guys who don't fit that profile. But at the same time, yes, there are a lot of women who have very high expectations and who also, you know, have very quote unquote old fashioned habits and desires. You know, they want to be treated to every single date. They want the guy to plan every date, pay for every date until they're in a relationship. They want the guy to do absolutely everything. They will never text first. And I think that that's a really rough expectation to have because it's if you're trying to form a partnership with somebody, it's a partnership. It should be 50-50.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I think people are just doing themselves a disservice by having those expectations and standards.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Just 1 second here. I got a phone call. I'll edit that out. And what I find shocking, again, for me, again, going into the dating apps, I actually had a very successful dating life. In dating apps, I remember at one point I was talking and dating 7 people at one point. And I was like, I'm having the time of my life. And I'm like, I'm hearing all these guys complaining that I can't match with anybody. I'm like, well, why not? And a lot of them wanted to look at my profile. And I guess I found success without knowing it. But what made my profile successful, and what I tell guys and what women told me is like right now, Ilana, if you look at my background, every photo I had something regarding my personality, whether it was a favorite movie, my favorite place. I spoke volumes about who I've met with like pictures of celebrities, things like that. So you saw my profile, you knew I was a guy who loved movies and who loved pop culture. So there was a lot of conversation starters there. And that's what I look for women. And I knew I matched with the right woman when they referenced Beetlejuice or something of that regard. I'm like, all right, that's the one. We have something in common. So pictures do wonders. And a lot of guys, when I looked at their profiles, selfies in the car, dude, come on.
Oh my, selfies in the car, selfies at the gym, selfies in a mirror. Bye. I'm out. Yeah. I'm out.
Yeah, and like, look at your background before you post it, man. There's like toilet paper. They're in the restroom. I'm like, come on, dude, flush the toilet. You seriously didn't crop that out? I mean, seriously. And I think that is really like anything. Like you said, dating apps are a tool. And I think if people, especially men, took more of an effort in writing out a profile with, proper grammar, maybe set up a photo shoot, maybe had their friend take some photos, they would have success. And a lot of mine were selfies, but again, the background always spoke volumes about my personality, and I made sure to make them laugh in my bio, telling a funny story. You were
intentional about everything.
Yeah, and maybe it's because my background in sales and things like that, because it's telling a story. I'm the product in a sense. Really put effort into that. So I had a lot of success with that. But when I see young men complaining about them not being able to match, or saying that it's all superficial, all this, I'm like, no, you really got to take an effort to look inward in yourself and say, hey, maybe I'm the problem, and just take some accountability and make some tweaks and changes and go from there. And that's my rant. I'm sorry.
No, I completely agree. And I could talk about this for hours. And
let's do it.
I think, at the end of the day, you would never send out a resume to a job you really want without looking it over, without making sure that you're catering it to the job description and having friends or family or a professional in the field check it over. Like, you are going to put hours of effort into this. Like, this this is basically your resume to find your life partner. So why are you just uploading the most recent 6 pictures that you have, or trying to just like run to the bathroom and take a quick mirror selfie to put that on your profile to fill that last photo slot, and, you know, writing you're overly competitive about everything because you saw that on someone else's profile and thought it was funny for a second. It's like, literally, you are just doing yourself such a disservice. And honestly, you're wasting your own time if that is the profile that you are setting up for yourself, because you're not going to get what you want because you're not putting out anything for somebody to work with.
Exactly. I completely agree. Now, we've talked about men enough right here as far as what they need to do. What are some problems you've seen from women, you know, the women you've spoken to on your podcasts and need heard in real life? Like, what problems are women having that they can remedy?
On apps or in general in dating?
Let's talk about both. Let's kind of go from apps in dating. Let's go that route.
I think a big thing, and I know, you know, we're moving forward with like female empowerment and all that, but I do think there are so many women out there who will not send that first text, or who will not make that move to ask somebody for their number, ask for the date. And it's like, I understand, you know, we can be old fashioned. We can want a guy to court us. But at the end of the day, if you want something, you have to go for it. You have to put yourself out there. And every single guy that I've talked to is like, yeah, I'm sick of making all the effort. And when a girl makes an effort with me, not only am I like really excited about that, but it's so attractive because they're being bold. They're showing me they're actually interested, and nobody else is doing it. So when a woman does do that, it just makes them stand out so much more and makes me so much more interested in them. And if that's what the guys are saying, then why are the women not picking up on that and actually doing it? And I think it's this like fear of rejection and fear of, well, if I put myself out there and it doesn't work, then I'm going to, you know, be embarrassed, and it's going to hurt so much more than if I didn't put that effort in at all. And it's like, dating is not going to be easy. It's not always going to be fun. But you do have to put yourself out there, and you're going to have to take risks. And, you know, those risks ultimately do pay off.
Wow. I guess it's funny because, you know, man, we hear all the time that we have a fear of rejection. I just never really, and of course, I don't know why I never thought about it, but women are fearful of rejection.
Oh my God, so much.
I never considered that. I don't know why, but it's obvious, duh, Rudy, you know, come on. But that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, I do get women who message me as well, says, hey, Rudy, do men appreciate a woman who's upfront and asks you out? And I'm like, heck yes, we are. You know, when I was single, it happened maybe twice, 3 times maybe. But when it does, it's very flattering because it's like, wow, she actually came up and she's introducing herself. It really helps you stand out. So I really encourage women to do that more often. Take a chance, because us guys are doing it all the time. We're out there.
Yeah. It's so funny to me that you never thought that women have this fear of rejection, because I feel like there's really is like such a gender wars concept.
Oh, it's horrible.
Or like a gender wars feeling in dating, because, you know, there are some podcasts and some people I'll listen to who are men where it's like, oh, like the women are the problem. They're doing everything wrong and making it so hard for us guys out here. And it's like, yes, women are not doing the best, but neither are men. And at the end of the day, like everyone is just trying. Everyone is really doing the best that they can, and we're all making mistakes. And there are things that we all can be doing to help each other out more. And I think at the end of the day, you know, for whichever gender, it comes down to communication. And
absolutely.
Like in every dating situation, every relationship problem, I think everything goes back to communication, and more so like a lack of communication and all of these assumptions that we make when we're overthinking, when we're trying to guess what the other person is feeling or what they're looking for or why they haven't texted us back, you know? And I think if everyone just put a little bit more effort in, it does not matter what your gender is, just put a little bit more effort into communicating. And, you know, if you have a question or if you're wondering what they're thinking, instead of assuming, ask, share what you're thinking and ask them. And that's how you'll find out the answer.
I love that. I got so many points to kind of go off that. One thing, there's a lot of things that shocked me when I started dating, right at 39. One of them was people did not know how to carry a conversation at the dinner table or at a bar. And they would pick up their phone. And I'm like, expecting a text? What's going on? I just found that a lot of men, but I dated women, but a lot of women couldn't carry conversation. And a lot of them kind of just go with a cadence of like, when the relationship's ending, it had to be like in a horrible, hateful event, like I hate you. And then, hey, it didn't work out. That doesn't mean we have to hate each other. We're not dating, but maybe we can still be friends. So why do we have to hate each other? Let's kind of calm down. But to kind of go back to the gender wars piece, I can't stand it. I really can't, because what I'm seeing is people, men and women, not owning up to their mistakes and playing the victim versus taking accountability. Like I met a lot of guys who were like, I hate women. They just want you for your money and all this stuff. I'm like, well, maybe if you stop trying to date these IG models who are superficial, look at their post, dude. Every photo she's taking, there's a Louis Vuitton purse in the background. Right. She's telling you what she wants. If you keep going for that type of woman, you're going to get the same problem. Come on, use your brain, man. Come on. So it's like, if you're repeating the same mistakes, who is the problem? Yeah. In the end, it's you.
I've been guilty of that. Like for years, I kept dating I say like I dated the same guy in a different font throughout most of my 20s.
Like yeah.
Because, I kept dating these guys who the first like 5 dates or 5 times we hung out, whatever, would be so great. And I'd be like, okay, like they definitely like me. And then we'd have a conversation about it. And they're like, I really like you, but I'm not looking for something serious. And all I would hear is them saying they like me. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, they like me. Yeah. And I was obviously looking for something serious. And they would continue to say like, like I need to focus on my job right now, but I really love hanging out with you. And I'm down to keep hanging out with you if you're okay with that. And in my mind, I was like, okay, well, they said they like me. They're not looking for something serious, but it's too soon for them to know if they would want something serious with me or not.
Yeah.
But they still want to hang out with me. So I'm going to keep hanging out with them. Like challenge accepted. I'm going to change their mind. I'm going to convince them to want to date me. Every single time, guess who ended in tears for months, like back to square zero. Yeah, it was so tough. And, I say that like, I just was breaking my own heart over and over because I could have heard what they said and said to myself, I'm going to do something different this time and I'm going to walk away. And I'm going to go out there and find that person who is looking for something serious. And eventually I did do that. And it felt really great to break that bad pattern that I was in, this cycle. But for so long, I just let it keep happening. And it really was so painful.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest lessons I learned too in the dating world is that you can't change anybody.
No.
If you try to change their mind and convince them with my love, I'm going to turn him around or turn her around. I've made that same mistake. You're going to end up with a broken heart. So if anybody's listening out there, you don't change or try to change anybody. You're going to fail.
You can't change anyone. You can't fix anyone either. So stop trying. Because I also tried to take on many projects and that is not good.
Yeah. They can only fix themselves when they're ready. And that's the only time. So yeah, don't do that. But, we both have similar stories. You said that we kind of had like, there was like some horrible experiences we had in the dating world. And we met our significant other. We're now, where we want to be. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned while in the dating world?
I think, there's this phrase that we hear, like you have to love yourself before you can be loved by someone else. And for so long, I disagreed with it. I tried to fight people on it. And I'm like, no, like, does that mean I'm unlovable or not deserving of love just because I don't love myself? And I think what I finally learned is you don't necessarily have to love yourself. I think loving yourself is something that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of introspection. And some people might honestly never get there. But I think you have to respect yourself because if you don't respect yourself, you are going to accept a lot less than you deserve. And you're going to accept being treated really poorly. And so even if you can't get to that point of loving yourself, you at least need to know what you are and aren't willing to accept and to put up with and, have standards. And this is kind of similar, but different. Like we all have these checklists, like whatever's on your checklist probably is not going to lead to the right type of partnership. Right. It's these superficial things. And I think it's okay to have a checklist, but I think what needs to be on your checklist is, how does this person make me feel? Or how do they treat me? Do I feel like myself when I'm with them? I want somebody who is going to make me feel safe. And I know that's something that a lot of women have said to you in the past.
Yeah. And it shocked me when I heard it safe. And then they explained that, I never pressured them. Like on dates, like I think one of the big problems men have is like, I'm gonna hook up with her later. What's going to happen? Is she going to be the future Mrs. whatever? Like, no, I just went and just enjoyed the evening and just enjoyed it for what it was, and just whatever happened. And they always told me that. And it was so shocking. Of all the compliments I've ever heard, and you hear on cliche television shows or movies, I had never heard it. So when I first heard it, it really just shocked me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of the best compliments you can get in the dating world, honestly. But yeah, I think, you should have standards and expectations that you set for yourself of how you want to feel with somebody, as opposed to what they look like or how tall they are, how much money they make. But yeah, I really think it's about knowing what you will and will not put up with. And
yes,
I do think it takes, figuring out who you are and knowing your worth and respecting yourself so that you know when somebody else is not respecting you.
And you know what? I 100% agree with everything you said. And I think it's kind of a tough ask, because everything you said, knowing what I want, loving myself, I didn't love myself or have all those items until 39 years old. So asking somebody in their mid 20s, early 20s, even their 30s to know all that, I cannot imagine how tough that would be, because you're still really finding yourself. And I didn't find myself until my late 30s. So that's got to be a tough situation for a lot of people.
It is. And that's why I think that, that idea of loving yourself before someone else can love you, like, I get it. But at the same time, I do think it's like too tough of an ask. And that's why I think it's more about, respect. But I also think we need to it's up to us to learn. It's up to us to approach every dating experience, every date we go on as a learning experience, and I try and encourage my listeners and my followers, like, to celebrate their dating wins. And a dating win doesn't mean you had a great date and they asked you on a next date. It can be you had a bad date, but you learned something that you do or don't want from somebody else, or you tried being vulnerable for the first time and it felt really good. Like, that's a win. You have to look at every dating experience and say, like, what did I learn from this? And how can I bring this experience with me moving forward so that I can be better next time, or, ask a better question, or not be reactive and instead just listen.
Right. I completely agree. It's funny. You mentioned, like, one of your, I guess your mission statements with your podcast is to help people not feel alone. Did I hear that correctly? To help them?
Yeah.
That's another thing that shocked me when I started dating, was the amount of people, women, that I was dating, who were going out because they didn't want to be alone. They hated being alone. And I remember dating this one girl. We actually ended up dating for a few months, but she told me that when she was out there trying to find somebody, she would take sleeping pills or NyQuil just to sleep through the weekend. She hated weekends because Monday through Friday, she was busy, right? Working overtime. But come weekend, she purposely put herself to sleep because she couldn't stand the idea of being alone. I'm like, oh my God, I never thought about that. And it wasn't just her. There's other people that didn't go to that extreme, but there's a lot of people who just do not like that idea. And, for me, again, I love being alone. It was solitude. I love, because I get to, edit videos. I got to draw, collaborate with other people. I was busy doing my own thing. But why is it you think that there's that fear for a lot of young men and women out there who just do not want to be alone?
I think part of it is, we have grown up in a world that just values people in relationships. And, any movie, any TV show that you watched, it's like the person who was single, they were less than. And the goal was to find that partner. And so we've internalized that and we've put that onto ourselves. And, we've told ourselves over and over, like, well, I'm not going to be happy until I find that person, or I'm sad right now, and what's going to fix me and what's going to make me happy and what's going to make me better is finding that partner. And until then, like, I'm a failure. And, I spent years telling myself, like, all of my problems will be fixed the second I get a boyfriend. And I truly believed that, because I would look at all the other people around me who were in relationships, and I just wanted it so badly that I felt like me not being in a relationship meant I was failing. And it was such a disappointing thing, anytime a situation did not work out, or I would go on a date and I was really excited about that person and, they didn't want to go on a second date, or they didn't live up to my expectations, or this picture I painted of them in my head. And it just made me feel like, well, I'm back to square one. I'm alone now. I'm always going to be alone. And it's something that is really, really difficult to overcome when we've told ourselves this story over and over for so long.
Yeah. And for men as well, because I feel like people learn about love in different ways. You learn about it through family interactions. A lot of people, young men like me, we, I guess, learned about love through Hollywood and films. Like there's that right woman. And as soon as you meet her, you know, that's going to be the one and only. And, you know, if you look back in some films, there's a lot of toxic, you know, storylines where a woman is with a guy and the protagonist sees that she's with a bad guy, but he's going to make them break up and take her. You know, there's Encino Man, Wedding Singer. There's so many other examples out there, which is not healthy. But anyway, we have that persona or that idea of what love is. And then I think a lot of young men go out there expecting when they see somebody, it's love at first sight, right? You know, the hearts are going to pop over their head. And, you know, it's obviously because she's beautiful, they fall in love with this person, but they didn't really take the time to get to know them. And then there's this pain of like heartbreak. Oh, she wasn't this, she wasn't that. She cheated on me, whatever. So I truthfully believe, how we are brought up and how we learn about love can really kind of set the tone for what we do. And a lot of that I feel we have to unlearn and really just kind of like reset, like you said, because it can really set up a lot of people, like you said yourself, where you just felt like a failure, which is a horrible feeling, man. And you know what, that also ties to a lot of younger people. Like, again, I got divorced, and there's something about the 24 to maybe 30 range where there's so many young people who feel they have to be married and they have to be, have a house and kids, and, you know, they have to post it. And I saw a lot of young people that I knew at work got married for the wrong reasons. Like they pressured their boyfriend because someone got engaged down the hallway. Now I'm going to make him do it. I'm like, don't do that. Please don't do that. So it's funny how these social constructs and pressures can really make people make the biggest decisions of their lives on a whim. I couldn't believe that.
I just this year, you know, my friends started getting married this year. I had like 5 of my friends' weddings. I have 15 weddings next year.
Oh my God.
Every single weekend is either literally my entire 2023 is filled with either weddings, bachelorette parties, bridal showers, or, you know, who knows how many engagement parties will happen. But
how much does the average wedding cost nowadays, if you don't mind me asking?
I have no idea, and I'm afraid to find out.
Oh, I can imagine.
Terrified.
Now with inflation. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But it's so interesting for me to see all of these people, you know, dating, getting engaged, getting married. And I know, you know, I'm not dumb. I know that they're not all going to end up together. And it's like, I want my friends to be so happy, but I see these relationships form. And in my head, I'm like, is this right? Like, I don't know. And I'm trying to bite my tongue, but it's so weird to think about, like, that all of these weddings I'm going to, like, they're not all going to stay together. Yeah. And I'm sure, obviously, like, you've experienced that firsthand, and I'm sure you've seen it amongst friends and family. Like, it's just such a weird concept of who is going to make it and who is not. And it'll be interesting as that unfolds over the next like 10, 20 years to like look back and see what their relationships were like at this point, and to say like, okay, yeah, that makes sense that didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's scary. And, you know, when I hear people on TikTok, you know, divorce rates are high and and they're blaming women again. Here you go with the whole gender thing. You know, divorces happen because 80% of the time women file. And here I am. I'm like, well, maybe out of that 80%, 40% of you men were just horrible husbands. How's that? And maybe that's why they filed. And I just can't stand men blaming women. And there's a lot of them that believe that once the ring is on, that no matter what happens, no matter how horrible they are or lazy they are, she's locked in for life. I'm like, you cannot think that way. What archaic thinking are you? What century are you coming from, man? Come on. It can't be that way. It blows my mind.
Yeah, and obviously it's the men blaming the women. You know, that's the funny part, where it's like with the gender wars concept, it's like men are saying women are the problem, women are saying men are the problem. The majority of these people have only either dated men or women. And I think we honestly need to get some people who are bisexual up in here to like actually say the pros and cons of dating each gender. But that being said, it is so interesting, which is why I am the first to admit, like, women are not doing everything right. Nobody's doing everything right. Like, we're all responsible for our mistakes and our flaws and things we can be doing better. But it's also interesting to see.
It is. It is. Especially the marriage. Like I said, there's so many people getting married for the wrong reasons. And granted, look, mine was for the wrong reasons too, because I felt family pressure. You know, I'm Hispanic, and I guess culturally, you know, we're supposed to get married very young. So I had a lot of family pressure. So I got married at 21. And I remember in church kneeling, and I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing? It finally hit me like, oh my God, you know, we're married 16 years and, you know, there's plenty of things that contributed to it failing, but a lot of it was communication. Like you talked earlier, you mentioned earlier, the problem I see with a lot of people online, especially with marriages and relationships, is that everyone says, well, you got to communicate. The problem is no one knows how to listen.
Yeah.
No one knows how to listen and comprehend. And sometimes just shut up. Like when your spouse is going off on you because your words made her feel this way, don't respond with, well, how about you when you do? No, dude, just shut up, absorb it, and just say, honey, I'm sorry my words made you feel that way. Let me take time to soak that in. I think if more people did that, and they don't know to do that, but I think if more people did that, there would be more successful relationships and marriages.
That's like what happens for the majority of the time you spend in couples therapy. The therapist isn't, you know, doing rocket science. They're literally just trying to get you to listen to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I learned that from marriage counseling and all that stuff. And I still go to therapy every 3 months, and it's really helped me, especially with the communication piece. That's one of the factors that I had my marriage fail was like I wasn't listening. I was always waiting to talk. And I think if more people just acknowledge that, things would be better. Absolutely.
Yeah. And with listening, I think this is something I've learned over the years, mainly like through friendships. And I think it took on a bigger role in my life once I became this like person who gives dating advice for a living is like a lot of times, you know, friends and people in my life will come to me with a problem. And I realized that half the time me giving advice is not the answer. And that's not what they came to me for. They just came to me because they wanted somebody to listen. And so I have, you know, put into practice is if somebody's coming to me with a problem, with something they want to vent about, with, you know, maybe they are asking for advice, but I literally will always say, do you want me to give you advice or do you just want me to listen? And I think that has really enhanced my friendships, my relationships, and has helped people feel even more comfortable coming to me because half the time, like we are spewing out all this unsolicited advice to each other that is not helpful, that the person doesn't want to hear, that they're not going to listen to. And most of the time, like we all just want someone to hear us.
Yeah. A lot of people feel like they're never heard, and an audience of them just kind of venting will just make them feel like amazing after the fact. So yeah, I totally agree. Going back to the dating apps real quick. Have you noticed there's conversations and trends starting where people are abandoning dating apps and they're saying dating apps are toxic, etc. What are your thoughts on people like, I guess, living that life and now abandoning the dating app?
I love it.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to abandon ship forever. I think they will come back. But I think that there is this whole mindset that dating apps exist. There's no other way to meet people. Guess what? Bars didn't disappear. Parties didn't disappear. You know, meeting somebody at a coffee shop or on the subway or at a park did not disappear. And people like to the point we made before, like people have become so lazy. And so I love that people are saying like, I'm fed up with the apps. I'm going to go find another way to meet people because I hope that that's going to encourage people to, you know, put more effort into it because they're going to have to. And I just think it's so important, you know, if people think that just because the dating apps aren't working for them, they're never going to find their person. Like, good, take matters into your own hands and put a little effort into it and go out there and meet people. And so that excites me because it is bringing back, you know, people trying and giving a shit and putting themselves out there and looking up from their phone when they're somewhere and going to events and meeting people in public. Do I think that it's going to last forever and that these people are not going to go back on dating apps? Realistically, no. But I think when they do go back on dating apps, they'll still remember, oh, I can still meet people in real life too. Yeah.
And for me, I laugh when I saw that. I'm like, okay, we're just going old school again. We're doing what we used to do, which is the great way to meet people organically. I just think it's hilarious because, like I said, so many things shocked me going out into the dating world. I remember at a bar, I saw a beautiful woman. I went up and approached her and said hi. And she just kind of like freaked out. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, what happened? And I started talking to her, and she goes, I'm sorry, just guys don't approach women no more. I'm like, what? Like, when did that
it's like
stop?
Stranger danger, right?
I'm like, really? I didn't mean to scare you. Can I buy you a drink? Let's talk. And like, I just kind of like relaxed them a little bit. But so many women were just shocked that I went up and spoke with them. I'm like, guys cannot be guys. I mean, come on, guys, you gave this up. I mean, they cannot be this lazy. And I'm like, do you see that often that men don't approach women anymore?
1000%. You know, I'll go out with my single friends, or I'll encourage my single friends to go like and approach somebody, or just put themselves in the position to be approached. And it's not happening at all whatsoever on either side. And that goes to show, like, if you do it, you're going to stand out. And guess what? If it doesn't work out, if for some reason, you know, they're not single or they're just not interested, at least you got practice in.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're right back where you were had you been standing there and not gone for it. But now you at least have an experience and you've done it. And the next time it'll be even easier.
Yes. And you're right. And there were a lot of women were one shocked, but a lot of them were very impressed that I did that. Or I went up to them and there was a group of women like, wow, you came up to us. I'm like, yeah, why not? I'm not scared. I mean, I guess where my mentality would help me was I had just went through divorce, the most horrible event I've ever experienced. And I came out like positive. With all this armor, I just went through hell. Your rejection isn't going to do anything to me. I'm good. Fine. I'm just going to go on to the next, you know, you're not the one. So what? I'll move on to the next. So there was like the invulnerability that I had felt going out there. And another thing that I think contributed to my success in dating was that it's weird because I don't know if I never thought of it until I was experiencing it, that as a divorced man going out into the dating world, I was excited to introduce myself because for the first time in my life, I'm just Rudy, not Rudy married to X. And I was so enthusiastic about what's in front of me. I had a YouTube channel I was reviewing movies on. I was just so excited about life and possibilities that radiated to women. And you're like, wow, this guy, you know, most guys are divorced and horrible and miserable, you know, hating their ex-wife. This guy's talking positively about his ex-wife and life. And I think it was my attitude. I'm 5'9". I don't make six figures. I'm close to, but taxes suck. But you don't have to have all these criteria that you see on social media to have a successful dating life. It all comes down to you.
You just have to be a good person.
Yes, that's really it. And it's
Surprise! Spoiler alert. Just be a good person.
Yeah, it's so frustrating to like, guys, it's not that hard. It's not rocket science. Just be a good person. All that animosity that happened in your past, women can feel that anger. They can feel if you got resentment or just a negative person. So don't fix yourself, man. Come on.
Yeah. It's like, you know, there's obviously this mindset around like, don't bring up your ex on a first date.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually think that that's incorrect. I think you can absolutely talk about like a past relationship. You know, we all have exes. We all have past relationships that have shaped who we are. I think what you need to not do is say, my ex is crazy. Because A, you're talking negatively about somebody right off the bat.
Yeah.
B, I'm sitting there thinking, well, shit, now I have the potential to be their next crazy ex, because some people are literally crazy makers. And yes, there are people out there who have crazy exes, but they don't sit there and talk about that person and say, that person's crazy. They say, oh yeah, I, was in a really unhealthy relationship before, and it definitely changed me and changed the way I approach dating. But I've worked through a lot of stuff, and I'm really excited to be out here and, looking towards the future and a better situation, whatever it is. It's the way you talk about it. It is.
And it's like, I always tell guys when they, the few that I've coached, I'm like, come on, think about it. I mean, think about what you can offer to this person. I'm not talking financial money, but think about it. If you're coming into the table, like they say, and you just have all this animosity toward your ex, you just come out like hate-filled rage, and everyone's crazy. You got to think about that, man. The past is the past. Don't let it define you. Learn from it. And I promise you, because you weren't an angel yourself. No one's always the victim. You're not always the victim.
Totally. Yeah.
And you have to evolve with every experience that you have. And if you don't, there's a problem. You're the problem. And I just think, I guess what it comes down to is what we're both saying is that both people, men and women, instead of blaming each other, they just have to take some accountability on themselves and who they allow into their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in my horrible relationship experience, he lied, manipulated me, cheated on me, gaslit the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. But I let that happen. And I didn't take any risk. Like I tried in the moment, I was like, I just felt like the victim. And there was so much that I could have done differently. And so many times I could have left and I didn't, and I allowed it to continue. And I definitely became the worst version of myself with this person. And I do take responsibility for that. You know, the situation didn't have to get as bad as it did, but A, I allowed it to, and B, I probably added fuel to the fire because of who I became. And so is it all my fault? Absolutely not. But am I also semi-responsible for what happened to me? 1,000%.
Yeah. And I applaud you for recognizing that, because there's a lot of people, and we both know those types of people that just, he hurt me. I was giving him all this and he did blank. And it's like, well, okay. But it takes a lot of courage for somebody to acknowledge, I guess, their mistakes and faults in previous mistakes in relationships, because again, that shows growth. And I applaud you for doing that. That's awesome.
Thank you. It took a while to get there. A lot of time, a lot of work, but we got there.
Same here. And just like with my, before my girlfriend now, who I'm going to marry, I had the most toxic relationship ever. And just a note out there for anybody listening, if you think heartache is bad, it's true. But the worst heartache you can experience is the one after your divorce, because you thought you checked all the boxes. You thought you did everything right. You thought you were super smart, and I'm not going to get hurt this time. But when it happens, it hurts more, but there's also shame on you. Like, wow, how did I end up here?
How did I let this happen? How did I get here?
Yeah. And it's because of that toxic relationship that I kind of started this whole thing. But again, just sharing knowledge from a different old school perspective. And I think it's really helped a lot of people. But again, you're helping a lot of people. And again, I thanks so much for being on the show here. But Ilana, where can people find you?
Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been so wonderful, and I'm so excited to have you on Seeing Other People. But awesome. You guys can listen to Seeing Other People wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm on Instagram at Seeing Other People and TikTok at Ilana Dunn.
I want to thank Ilana Dunn for joining me in today's podcast. Please go support her platform and listen to her podcast. All her social media links will be down below in the show description. Also, don't forget to leave a 5-star rating for the show and leave some feedback. I will read all that on air. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Please follow me on all my social media platforms. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see everybody next week. Have a wonderful day.